Well, hey everyone, welcome to Made by Mitch. Today I'm going to show you how I made this really simple table saw cart with just scrap 2x4s and MDF. So this is my table saw stand. Not super glamorous, but it gets the job done, something that I needed in the shop. So I'll probably upgrade it at some point in the future, but for now, this works great. So first thing I had to do was I had to make all my cuts. So out of 2x4s, I just measured what I needed, and then I went ahead and marked and cut all of my boards to length. I did a video on my workbench that I made a few weeks ago, and if you saw that video, then you'll recognize the construction because it's about the same. I just basically made a frame for the bottom shelf and then the top shelf. I assembled those together and then tied them together with legs. So what I'm doing here is I'm just assembling the top and the bottom shelves, and I'm just using glue, pre-drilling, and then screwing them together with 2.5-inch screws. The next thing I had to do was attach the legs. So I used glue and then I pre-drilled and added 2.5-inch screws to hold the legs. And the legs are going to attach the top shelf and the bottom shelf, and they'll hold them together. And I have one extremely important piece of advice for you during this video. Glue does not work when it's frozen. There, I said it. Now where was I? Oh yeah, the build. So the next thing I had to do was attach the top shelf. And I did this just like I did my workbench. I used clamps. This is the most effective way, in my opinion, to do it. And again, my glue was frozen, so I couldn't glue this part of it. But I just screwed everything together, and I think it'll be plenty strong. Next, I'm just measuring how big the top needs to be, and like I said, I just had some scrap MDF around the shop, so I'm using that to put on the top of my table saw stand. So when I put the top on, it was a little bit wobbly. It wasn't completely flat. So I decided to get a file and just file down some of the high places. And then I tried to put that on again, and it was perfect. So I then screwed on the top onto the base, and I also used clamps to hold it down while I screwed it so it wouldn't move. And I am pre-drilling, and I'm using a countersink bit, so that way the screws would not get in the way of the table saw stand. Now I'm just flipping it over and I'm adding the casters, and again I went with the 2-inch casters on this just because I had them already. If and when I do this again, I will use larger casters because it just makes life so much easier when they're a little bit bigger. I keep referring to my workbench build, so if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description, so go check that out just if you want a little more detail of what I did. One thing you need to do is make sure that everything is level, and it turned out that mine happened to be perfect, which I was really happy about. So I was trying to find a way to stabilize the saw so it wouldn't move around, and so I added this piece of wood here, so that way if I'm pushing against it when I'm cutting something, I don't have to worry about it pushing off the stand. And so I did add this piece of wood here, but then I ended up going back in and adding some screws, and I fastened it down to the table anyways, which I definitely recommend, just so that way you don't have any accidents. So at first I really didn't know what I wanted to do with the bottom half of this. I couldn't really store anything big under there, so I decided just to make a tiny drawer that I can put in there and put some random tools in that needed a place to live. So I just got some 1x10 and I made a really simple box with butt joints using screws. Again, I had frozen glue, so that didn't really work out for me. And then I had a little bit of MDF left, so I used that as the bottom of the drawer. Not extremely efficient, but it's what I had, so it's what I used. And here I'm just using a paint can to make a small half circle, and I'm making just a little groove to use as like a drawer pull instead of putting hardware. This is going to be open face. I'm not putting a top or anything on it, so it worked out. And then here I'm adding a couple boards to the sides, so that way when I push and pull the drawer in and out, I didn't keep hitting the sides and not able to push it. So did that, and then I gave it a quick sanding. And I just did it up to 120 grit. Nothing special. I'm not going to finish this. It's just probably temporary. And so this drawer worked out really well. Off camera, I did use a router to do the edges of the top of the drawer so it wasn't as sharp. And then I just put my tools in, and that was it. So this is the finished stand. If it's something that you're interested in building, I did make plans in Google SketchUp. If enough people are interested in that, I can make that available to you. But one of the things I wanted my workbench to be is an outfeed table for this table saw stand. And so it works out perfectly. I've used it a few times since, and it's been great. Well, that's it for this build. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot. And those of you who have commented on my videos or subscribe to my channel, it really means a lot with the continued support you've given me. I'm still new to this whole YouTube thing, so I'm trying to build the channel, and I do really appreciate your help and your support, your advice. All those things mean a lot to me, so thank you. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel or giving this video a thumbs up or even sharing it if it helped you or inspired you in any way. It would really help me out. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'll leave a link below in the description. But thank you guys. We'll see you next time.